Welcome back to Wempower 2021, an inspiring initiative by the Orion Malls, Bangalore. And we have with us for the second session of today for Orion Wempower 2021, which is in its second edition, welcoming you all back. We have with us the very dynamic, the very glamorous, the very yummy mummy, if I may say so, and the wonderfully enterprising executive director of the Brigade Group, Nirupa Shankar. Nirupa oversees the hospitality, retail, and office portfolios of the Brigade Group, and she even launched Brigade Real Estate Accelerator program for catalyzing innovation in the world of real estate. Nirupa has mentored her organization, and Nirupa, under the leadership of Nirupa, has mentored close to 47 startups in this domain. And Nirupa's dream is that one day this figure soon reach 100. Nirupa, welcome, and wishing you a very, very happy International Women's Day.
Thank you, Srimoy. Thanks for having me, and I wish you the same.
Yeah. So, we'll jump straight into the Adda because, we have a power-packed, back-to-back sessions, and you have your company Women's Day celebration, which is important to celebrate all the women in your organization.
Yeah.
So firstly, Nirupa, we'll talk about, this campaign, Orion Wempower.
Right.
As you know, we are in our second edition. Last year, we had a very, very successful offline event within the premises of Orion Mall, which is, my favorite destination in Bangalore. It's where I spend a lot of my hard-earned money. And I'm sure women of Bangalore or the people of Bangalore love your property, love the openness of your property and the architecture, which I always admire. It's not really like the usual mall, Last year must have been a very, very difficult year for you and for the Brigade Group in general. Because be it real estate, be it high street brands, be it F&B, be it movies, everything was hard hit, especially in the first couple of months when there was a complete lockdown.
Yeah.
So take us through that tumultuous phase. As a woman helming a business empire, what was it like? And how did you manage to keep yourself afloat as an organization as well as a leader?
Okay, thank you for that loaded question. I'll try to answer it as best as I can. So I think, when the lockdown was announced, I had actually just delivered my second child a month ago. So for me, it was fairly, there was just a lot going on. So physically, I wasn't there in terms of the team to kind of lead them through this, but I was obviously watching through the sidelines. Our chairman, Mr. Shankar, who's been through 4 different business cycles like this, he's been through 4 very big downturns. We were lucky to have his leadership and guidance also to guide us through this time, because I think, the experience of having gone through previous downturns really helped. I think, like you rightly said, it was very difficult because, we are in the business of construction. So we build the malls and we give out all the space to various tenants to operate. What happened with COVID is that, a lot of tenants had to throw their hands up in the air saying that, listen, whether we're F&B or retail or cinema or family entertainment, we can't pay our rents anymore. And as mall owners, you try to support your tenants because everything is a partnership. And so we did support them. We took a very fair approach. We had a similar approach for everybody. And we had a plan, like, okay, in some cases, we asked them to pay 50% of the rent in cases where food and beverage, especially where they don't have large reserves of cash flow, we allowed a grace period where they didn't pay any rent. And, we were able to support all our tenants, even cinemas, we supported by no rent for during the lockdown. Actually, it's not just a month, right? It was from March to almost October. We had to extend all these relief measures, and the relief measures are still going on for us as mall owners. But while the tenants, we were there to support them, there's nobody to support a mall owner, right? Because we have to pay our interest to the bank. And the bank is not going to say, okay, don't pay your interest or pay half of it. While there was a moratorium till August or so, we had some relief then, but then it kicks in with interest. So I think it was very difficult. But the good part about being a larger player is that the residential side of the business was able to support the retail side of the business, because office, retail, hospitality, these are all the verticals I oversee, and they were all struggling to, especially office and hospitality and retail. So the parent company had to step in and help us through paying off our interest loans. That was the most difficult part, because that is how you just keep your head above the water.
Yeah.
That was the important part. And then, of course, there's always talk of efficiency. How do you cut your fixed costs? How do you reduce your day-to-day expenses? Because when there's no money coming in, how do you continue to make large payouts, whether it's in terms of security agencies, housekeeping, all that had to still go on. So there was tough measures on how to reduce staffing, how to become more efficient, which I think was the more difficult part of it from a humanitarian perspective.
Right, right. One question that comes to my mind, because you mentioned, delivering your second child, your daughter, who must be just about a year old now. And I remember you being on maternity leave, because for last year's Wempower, we had your sister, Pavitra, deliver, a very critical and a very powerful keynote address. And you were, I know, missing in action. A lot of women, Nirupa, and for me, because I run a community of single women as well, and I'm always saying this at various TED Talks and platforms where I'm invited to speak, that, to have women in leadership positions, we need women to keep working. Yeah. We need women to not kick up jobs, as soon as they become mothers or they get married, because, women are naturally built for sacrifice and for living their life, for others, and this constant role play, right? The good mother. I mean, we've idolized motherhood to that sort of very venerable position in India, right? Now, if you see the attrition levels, women in leadership roles, I mean, you had such a huge business empire. And like I said, that, it's like the Reddys of the Apollo group, whose daughters actually have inherited and they run the business. In many business families, the son-in-laws, the daughters are married off into business families so that the son-in-laws can then, take over the mantle. But it's very different in the case of the Brigade Group. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've always said yes to any project to curate, because I love, the fact that it's the daughters who inherit, because I'm a very proud daughter to my father as well. And I hope he's equally proud of me. Yeah. Now, tell us about being a young mom. How does one balance the tightrope? So many women watching you today, apart from the story of your business, are also looking at you as an icon in the sense that you haven't kicked up your job. You can, it's a family business. But you've made it back to work at a time when the business will still be tumultuous, because it's still dicey now, right? Tell us, why should women keep working? Why it's important to keep going, no matter what life challenges or life changes are in for you?
Yeah, so thanks. That's a really great question. And there are kind of three parts to it, so I'll kind of address each one of those. Like you rightly said, a lot of businesses prefer to have a male head. Yeah. And I think it's not due to a lack of competence from women, but I think it's the leadership and the what the prior chairman feels about that business. We are actually very lucky to have a chairman who's very visionary. Like my father, who started this company, he has 2 daughters. Now, he didn't say, okay, let me give the business to my son-in-laws and marry into some wealthy family where they can take it over. He's very clear that he wants his daughters to be very involved in the business. And obviously we've had to prove ourselves. It wasn't given on a silver platter. I had to work more than 10 years before I was elevated to a director position. I started off as a management trainee, but Brigade as a company, and I would say this is solely because of who our chairman is, we at one point had 4 women directors on the board. Wow. And you'll know how rare it is. Like most boards don't even have women on their board, and we had 4. And Mr. Shankar, chairman, had, before it was even made mandatory to have a woman on board, he already had 2 women on his board. At one point, we had 4. Now, post my mother's retirement, it is 3. But the fact is, he is a great proponent of wanting women to take on more responsibility and to in their competence. So in fact, today we're actually showcasing a video of an entire building that was completely conceptualized, designed and led by a team of women. So the engineering, the project management, the legal aspect, the architectural component, the sales, everything has been led by a all-woman team. And he specifically wanted an all-woman team to lead this building. It's a 3 lakh square foot building. It's not a small one, and it was built ahead of schedule by this all-women team. So it's definitely not a lack of competence. But I think the reason why a lot of women drop out post maternity leave is multifold, right? It's a very socio-economic reason, right?
Yeah.
We've all grown up thinking that, okay, once there are children involved, it's the woman who's going to take the backseat from her career and do that. The question of a man taking the backseat doesn't even arise. And, I don't think it's only due to the man's fault. I mean, I'm sure there are many men out there who would gladly stay at home and look after the kids. But how would society view them? Would society view them as a success? So it's not only a woman issue, it's a man issue. I'm sure many men would love to take a backseat, look after their kids, spend more time. It depends. I might be ambitious and driven. Somebody else might just want to be relaxed. But society would view those men as failures, if you ask me. They'd probably get made fun of. So one is, it's a socio-economic thing. And the second part is, not a lot of women have enough support. Like some women may not have their parents or their in-laws to support them. Like both my mother-in-law and my mother are working, so they're not there to look after my kids. So for me, I need to rely on help. So I have ladies who come. They're all nannies or staff who help me with my cleaning, the cooking, the looking after of my 2 kids, or a teacher to help with the schooling. I'm heavily reliant on a group of other women to support me so that I can fulfill my ambitions. And I think that's very critical. It's a critical message that unless women support women, you're not going to have anybody who can achieve or sort of break or shatter glass ceilings. I'm heavily reliant on the women in my life. And, whether it's my mother or my mother-in-law, the 5 women at home who help me with various aspects of the household duties. But also, I want to say it's equally important to have that support of the men in your life, right? Because unless my husband was supportive enough, unless my father was such a big proponent of seeing women in high positions, wouldn't have been possible. I mean, I've been raised to ensure that I'm always working. Like if I sit at home for more than 4 months, after maternity leave, my father's like, okay, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? It's not often that you hear that. I've actually never taken time off from work apart from maternity leave, because my father would just ask me, why are you sitting at home? Why aren't you working? So.
I think these are very strong, values. I think women have to hold themselves up to very high standards themselves, and of course, like I always say, a feminist father. I'm always telling my father that thanks to you being a feminist father, I am what I am today, so
Yes.
Saluting all the men in our life, I think on Women's Day, we should also acknowledge the presence, the equality, the values and the education that they have given us, because this is a country where, in a state like Bihar, at the age of 6, girls are being married and children are being trafficked, and women are dropping out of the workforce, and there's so much, right? I mean, even as we celebrate Women's Day, you're off to your your organization's celebration of Women's Day. It's March 8th today, and it is a day of celebration. As a leader, as a mentor to so many startups, which I'm sure have a lot of women or girl power invested in them, has the pandemic, as a company, as an organization, have you had to, have you changed policies for women? Tell us something about the diversity initiatives of the Brigade Group, because I'm sure, there are many. I mean, with the kind of vision that your father and, many of you have, I think our audience would love to know. Some of them might even want to come and work with you all, so it'll be great for us to know that.
Sure, happy to share that. I must say no specific policy in that sense, women-centric, was changed due to COVID, but because I think our company has always been women-centric. We often take part in the Great Place to Work survey by Economic Times, and we are the only real estate company in the country that has been ranked consistently for the last 10
Correct.
years is the best place to work in real estate. And I think recently we also were, applied in the women category, best place for women to work for. And there again, we were rated very highly. And again, that's because of one, the leadership, and two, of course, the friendly HR policies. I think the most important aspect of what we do is focus on safety of women in our company, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the most important thing. If you ask me, one of the biggest hindrances for women is the fact that it's not a safe place. I mean, it's a fact. I don't want to simply say things, but it's a fact that India is not necessarily a safe place for women. It is a fact. So the
Yeah.
most important thing we can provide for women is creating a safe environment to work in, right? An environment where they are not judged, where they don't have to deal with any harassment. And I think that has been the focus. We take it extremely seriously. Even if it's any small complaint that comes in, we take extremely severe action if there's truth to whatever complaint has come in. We ensure that women don't work late beyond 7 o'clock. If they are asked to work late, then a male manager accompanies them back home to make sure that they're safe. We have a fairly flexible policy when it comes to women on maternity leave, while of course we give the mandatory 6 months leave. If people want to extend that to 1 year, we give flexibility for that additional 6 months. We also are one of the few organizations that give paternity leave. It's not very long, but the thought, it's a start. When you start saying paternity leave, I think it's a long way off. Like some American organizations have paternity leave up to 6 months as well. I think in Nordic countries as well, they've moved to 6 months or 1 year of paternity leave, which helps share the load. But I think today we're not in that position to give such a long leave, but at least that thought of, hey, let's give some paternity leave has come in. And apart from that, I think, like I said, creating a safe environment, giving women flexibility and making sure that they are reach home safely if they have to work late, things like that.
Correct. For Women's Day, and now that we are in 2021, and the campaign, as you would have seen, you're a part of the campaign. You're one of the 14 critical voices, which were so inspiring for all of us. So, what would you say is the spirit of your business in 2021? Because we've all had a hard year. There's been burnout. There's been, business losses. There has been recalibrating of business strategy, right? But how do you? What is it a hopeful 2021 for business?
Yes, I mean, another great question. I think, 2020 was the year of survival.
Yeah.
And once you've survived, and I think the next 2021 should be the year of thriving, because I think the organizations that were financially conservative, that didn't overextend themselves from a leverage perspective, didn't take on too much debt. The companies that were responsible have managed to sort of ride this wave. And it's now their time to sort of seize the opportunities and sort of consolidate and get that bigger market share. So for us, I think, is just to grow from strength to strength. Unfortunately, a lot of, say, smaller players were not able to sustain the financial losses. They had to close down their operations. But in a sense, that's an opportunity, to get the larger market share, which we're already seeing. And it's an opportunity, right? To give more people, as you survive as a company, you are only as good as your people. And the more you grow, the more opportunities from a job perspective that you can create. And I think it is the time of the people who have been responsible and who can, now take advantage of the growth phase that we have, because everything came to a standstill and in 2020, and now people are now hungry to, say, buy homes or come back into the malls or come back into hotels. And now it's the time to kind of make good on this opportunity. There's a lot to be had, and it's time to grab that opportunity as well.
Right. For working mothers like yourself, Nirupa, my last question to you before I let you go. I'm sure you have a very busy day ahead of you, and time with your lovely girls, because it's Women's Day with your mom, mother-in-law, your sister. It's total girl power, I think, in the Shankar household today. But, as a working mother, as an entrepreneur yourself, as a top leader of your domain, as I said, many working mothers are watching this. Many women on maternity leave, or those anticipating, getting pregnant or planning a pregnancy, are looking to you for inspiration. What would you say is, as a woman who has to balance home and hearth. She has to balance the office as well as being the CEO of her home. Of course, you're helped by a tribe of house staff. But what would you say are a few tips or some things to women who may be even planning a pregnancy? How can we bring back women into the workforce and ensure that this gender inequality at the boardrooms and in our offices once again can be recalibrated?
So again, really good question. And I would say that, of course, women have to have their children. That is honestly the most important function you can do as a woman, because unless it is what we are here for, right? To procreate in a way and to continue the family line. That's what we are here to do. And of course, like raising my family and having my two girls are probably the most important responsibility I have been given as a woman. And they are the most important thing to me in my life. But that said, I think we need to stop looking at work as an option, because women look at work as, oh, I can work or I can't work. I also have the option of working or not working. And life would be a lot easier, perhaps, if I wasn't working as well. I could have a lot more time with my kids. And that is a regret that I have to live with, right? It is a guilt that we all live with when I leave work in the morning and you see your crying child begging you to go, or your 5-year-old saying, why do you have to go to office? Why can't you stay with me and spend more time? It does pull at your heart. But I think for me, work is not an option. If you want to be in control of your life and your destiny, you need to have the financial wherewithal to be able to do that. If you are not financially independent and you are dependent on, say, somebody else, say your husband or say your father or whatever, then at some point, if you want to make a decision that they are not in agreement with, it's very unlikely you'll be able to follow that. So I always say that if you want to be in charge of your own destiny, you need to be financially independent to help yourself through that. Because if you're dependent on other people, then you also have to sort of toe the lines when they the line when they expect you to do so.
Correct.
So if you want to be in charge, make your own decisions, have the freedom, to buy your kids something that you want, buy yourself something that you want. Decide to take a break from work or decide to change careers or whatever it is. You need to, unfortunately, that's the way the world works. And you need to have the financial power to help you do that. That is, unfortunately, a sad truth in life. Okay, if you don't need that, and if you have a very generous backing and you don't need that and you can still live your life, great. By all means, don't work if that's what you choose not to do. But I don't look at work as an option because, one, it gives me the freedom to take the decisions I want. And two, I'm learning. I have the ability to constantly learn and better myself. I can become a better version of myself through the skills I have to develop, through the mistakes that I make, through the people that I meet. I get inspired by my employees and the people I work with all the time. I meet some fabulous people like yourselves and so many other people. I mean, the opportunities are tremendous. And I think work has been so fulfilling from making life richer, so it's not, for me, it's just not an option to not work. I could just sit back and keep my legs up. And, there are times when, for instance, after my 6 months of maternity leave, I did wish I had more time to sit back and relax with my little one. I did. I wanted to actually take a year off, but we were also during COVID. It was a stressful time at work. And I couldn't just be like, listen, I'm just going to sit back and relax with my baby. You guys deal with the hardships yourself. Like, what respect would my team have for me if I did that? So it's tough decisions, but I think in the long run, it'll pay off. And I always try to explain to my little girls that, you have to work. You have to look after yourselves. I know they're just 5 and 1, but at least the 5-year-old, I have to constantly explain to her why I'm not around.
Yeah, I know. The guilt trip of every working mother. I've had a working mother, so I know. Finally, Nirupa, your comments and thoughts on this very inspiring campaign that I put together for your organization along with a wonderful team from your end. How does it feel to be an Orion Wempower champion? You've been recognized, along with, of course, 13 other very inspiring women from diverse walks of life. So how was it for you? Tell us a little bit about the campaign, and then I shall bid you adieu for now.
Yeah. So thank you very much. I thought the campaign was very well conducted and organized, and despite the fact that we did it during COVID times, I thought it was very well organized, and the team understood the concept and executed extremely well. For me, I think everybody has a story, right? Everybody has a story. You, me, um, every single person has a story, and I feel like the only way we connect with people is when we share our stories. And I think that's what Wempower
Yes.
2021 did for me. It shared 14 very inspiring and different stories of how you can impact people in all walks of life and in whatever role that you do. All of us have a different role to play. Everybody need not be like each other to make that impact. And I think that's so important from our diversity perspective of learning from people. And that's what I mean, by just through this work that we do, this campaign that you did, you learn so much about life, about people, about stories and experiences. And I think, in the end, that's what makes our journey in this life fun and eventful.
Right. So more power to boss ladies all over the world today. More power to you, leading the way as a young working mother and giving out the message that work is not an option. It should be your lifeline, because it's not just financial empowerment, it's empowerment of your soul, it's enrichment of your mind, it's widening your horizon, and it gives you that bargaining power. You don't have to stick it out in any toxic situation once you earn your own keep. I wish you only the best, Nirupa. As I said, today is a day of celebration, not just for your organization, which is making a comeback into the fold after a very, very tumultuous year. I hope there's only growth and there's only prosperity and new beginnings for you, both personally and professionally. And I hope we can, work on many more enriching campaigns in the future, which really sort of, highlight the values of your organization, which I think what Wempower also does, equality, diversity, inspiring each other through our work and our journeys and our stories. On that note, thank you so much, Nirupa, for joining us. Nirupa Shankar, ladies and gentlemen, Executive Director, one of India's top corporate honchos, a force to reckon with. I hope only you grow from strength to strength, Nirupa. Have a great Women's Day. My love and my good wishes to you.
Thank you, Srimoyi. All the best to you as well and to all the women of this country.
Thank you.